Money Vikings. All right, Money Viking G here. Thank you for joining. Today I wanted to share my criteria for collectibles, because if you are a collector like I am, you know, the channel is basically a middle-class wealth building channel, but I like to spice it up a little bit with collectibles to kind of make it, you know, a little more artistic, a little more fun, a little more pop culture centric, talk about that kind of stuff, talk about fun things like Garbage Pail Kids and Spider-Man and magic cards and just fun stuff. But there is, you know, collecting to me does dovetail into a life of true wealth, because for me, collecting is an artistic journey as well. And one thing about building wealth is it's about the numbers, and it's about budgets, and it's about investing, and it's about Bitcoin, and it's about real estate and all that kind of stuff. But it's also about enjoying life. And you can enjoy life as a collector through games, through comics, by connecting with other people. In my mind, it's just another way to connect with other people. And that is definitely a life of true wealth, whether that's through your church or synagogue or religious institution, or whether it's through a collecting community or by playing magic or whatever it might be. But I wanted to do a quick video. I was thinking a lot lately about collectibles. You know, it can get out of hand, and we all know that. So one of my first rules of thumb is don't let collecting get out of hand. It can get a little bit too much where it becomes kind of an addiction. So you have to really check yourself when it comes to collecting, because we get a little bit of a high when you acquire something new in a collection. I like to be pretty picky and choosy about my collectibles. I also like to either pick up things that are under a certain dollar amount, or if I am going to buy an expensive grail, make it a really special one that I am going to hold on to and really enjoy for many, many years. I don't want to just willy-nilly spend money on this stuff. I want to be within a certain budget. But I want to talk about my main criteria for collecting. So there's kind of like three factors I think that go into collecting in my mind with things like magic cards, Marvel cards, comic books, etc. And number one is the financial aspect of it. And so you want to ask yourself, is this something that you believe will go up in value over time? Now, the brutal reality of collectibles is that really should not be, for most of us, that should not be the main reason we're collecting. If that's the main reason we're collecting, I think we've definitely missed the plot. And because number one, there's much, much easier ways to make money than by buying and selling collectibles. There's a lot of costs associated with buying and selling collectibles. There's shipping costs, there's costs that you have to pay to eBay or some other third party. You have to find buyers if you're going to resell your collectibles. And finding buyers is not always easy when it comes to collectibles. Collectibles also have a risk of going out of fashion. There's things that older generations used to collect that newer generations just don't. And, you know, I already see it happening to me as a Gen Xer. You know, I'm into things like Garbage Pail Kids and magic cards, but younger kids today are more into things like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon. So I do wonder in my mind if in 10, 20, 30 years, if there will even be a lot of people around collecting things like magic cards. Now, there are, I think, some blue chip collectibles that I think are kind of forever collectibles. I think if you are collecting comic books that are your classic Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, Avengers, X-Men, Wolverine, those to me are kind of the blue chips, and I think those are going to have many, many generations of fans. The characters are so mythological, so iconic, especially Spider-Man. When you see 3-year-olds wearing, you know, with Spider-Man backpacks and 4 or 5-year-olds dressing up as Spider-Man for Halloween, then you just know that there is a long life to this whole thing. But let me talk about collectibles here in terms of a couple things. So number one is finance. You want to ask yourself, is the collectible going to go up in value over time? Now, that is a tricky one. There are some comics that will, when you have an early Amazing Spider-Man, like this Amazing Spider-Man number 42, you know, if you're in the first 100 Amazing Spider-Mans, yeah, those are probably going to go up in value over time. So you kind of definitely check the box on that one. The second thing that you have to ask yourself is, do you really like the artwork? That's something that is very important to me. And I do see them as works of art. I like to display them. You know, I have something, for example, here, like a Mark Spears Absolute Batman. You know, Mark Spears, his artwork is just amazing. Now, this one, you know, will this go up in value over time? I think the jury's out a little bit on that. You know, yeah, maybe, but probably not that much. This probably was printed like crazy. There are probably so many copies of this. It's not scarce at all. So you have to ask yourself, when it comes to value, you know, it's not only demand, but it's supply. I mean, that's what takes me back to something like an Amazing Spider-Man. The supply of this is much lower, so the value can be a lot higher. So you have that aspect. The third thing I will talk about is it a key in some way? Key means a first appearance or some sort of special plot twist or a specific artist. You have to ask yourself, is it a key? Is it an important book is what you would ask. Is it an important book in the history of that cultural artifact, you could say? You know, and for example, I got, you know, Neil Adams covers. I really like Neil Adams covers. I think Neil Adams is going to be a kind of forever collectible artist. It's a classic artist that people love. First black suit Spider-Man right there. You have your Amazing Spider-Man 252, and that's clearly a key comic right now. Okay. But there are going to be books that are not necessarily keys. I have X-Men 104. I just like the cover art. I think it's a gorgeous example of cover art. I love the colors. I like the yellow. I love the Magneto force field that's, you know, the magnetic force field that's coming up as Cyclops tries to nail him. And I think that is just so cool. So, you know, those are the things I'm asking myself. Do I think it will go up in value? Number one. And the answer is yes or no. So I'm very careful about it. If I'm buying a book, again, like the Absolute Batman Mark Spears, do I think it's going to go up in value? I'm not expecting that to go up in value very much. Do I like it? Yes. Do I think it's something that people like? Yes. Could I resell it? Yes. But I don't see it going up as much as an Amazing Spider-Man 252 or when you're talking about your Amazing Spider-Man 42, right? I think those are going to appreciate in value more. So I asked myself that. Number two, do I really get something out of the collectible? Is there something about the artwork that I just really love? Because I do look at them all as works of art. And if the answer is yes, then I go for that. Now, if the answers start to become no on things, I actually will usually sell them. So if it's a work of art that I'm kind of like no longer into, then I'm probably gonna sell it. And then the final thing I want to talk about is nostalgia. Now, nostalgia, I think for me, it does have a place in my collecting. You know, I have to be blunt about that. You know, why would I be collecting, you know, Star Wars action figures, the Kenners from the 80s? Why am I collecting Garbage Pail Kids, Batman cards, whatever it might be? Some of the comics, for example, this Incredible Hulk 340 was one of the first comics that I had. And, you know, I love the iconic cover by McFarlane with the, reflection of the Hulk there and the way Wolverine looks. That has nostalgia for me. Now, this one clicks all the boxes, actually. This is a good example that clicks all the boxes. I think this one will continue to go up in value because of the key. It's not a key, and it's a key because it's iconic artwork and it's an iconic cover. It's not really a key issue, but it's got a value proposition there. I love the cover and it has nostalgia. So for me, it kind of clicks all the boxes. And so that's the ideal collectible for me, is something that checks all the boxes, right? Now, not everything's going to check all the boxes. But, you know, if you can get the nostalgia thing, if you can get the value proposition right, and if you can get the art right, I think you really have asked yourself the right questions as a collector if you're going to collect something. Remember, collecting has to be a long-term hobby. It's not you're not flipping a stock here, you know, in a short-term trade or anything like that. It doesn't work that way. It's kind of hard to the thing about collecting is it's easy to buy things. You guys know what I'm talking about. You can swipe now. It's very easy to buy things. It used to not be easy to buy things. You used to have to go to specialty stores and see what they actually had on the walls or in their bins. It's easy to buy things now, but it can be challenging to sell things. I mean, you can sell stuff, but you know, if you're looking to make a lot of money at it, you got to look at carrying costs, you got to look at closing costs and all that. It does cost money to ship, and you're going to pay taxes and all this kind of stuff. So there's a cost to selling collectibles that has to be factored in if you're just in it for money. So those are just some thoughts on collectibles. Please leave others that you have in the comments. I'd like to hear what you think about collecting. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.